Quackity quack. We are back with another episode of the Duck on a Rock Sports podcast. I'm Colin McDonough, joined by Matt McDonough, and today we're going to start by talking about the not AFC East champion um, New England Patriots after Sunday's loss to the Buffalo Bills. The Patriots were up 21-0, seemed to be heading towards their first division title since 2019 against the team that's won the last five. And then, as things unfortunately do, things fell apart for the Pats. And now they'll have to wait to clinch a playoff berth, a division title another day, and try to hold off the not dead yet Buffalo Bills. Matt, what were your initial thoughts on the loss Sunday?
Well, it was definitely disappointing, just like their other two losses for a team that's 11-3. All three losses have been pretty frustrating. The first two coming in September, Steelers and Raiders at home. Obviously, the Raiders have turned out to be one of the worst teams. The Steelers leading the North Division, playing decently now, but those two losses at home were frustrating early in the year. Definitely vented about it a lot on Twitter, and that kind of showed the expectations. And you and I both were thinking. I think they could get to 9 wins. You definitely said double digits. So like that mindset at the beginning of the year resulted in frustration with the slow start. Um, so going off that, the fact that they had a chance to clinch the division at home, obviously you take it after a slow start after the last few years. But you and I both had high expectations. You never wavered. I definitely wavered. You held true to your belief that they'd be a good team, and they are in a 11-2 with a chance to clinch the division at home. It was definitely frustrating and disappointing. As for the game itself, obviously, if you look at it as a standalone game, if you're up 21-0, if you're up 24-7 at the half, at home with a chance to, as they said, a hat and t-shirt game going in, the old media adage, you have to take advantage of it, and they did neither, giving up 5 straight touchdowns on drives. They couldn't get anything going on offense, so that quick start quickly evaporated. And unfortunately now you look at the rest of the schedule. They have a big game at Baltimore, who has everything to play for the playoffs. Then they have the Jets on the road, which is very tough at times for good Patriot teams to win down there. Then the Dolphins at home, and the Bills have game at the Browns, and the Eagles go to Buffalo. Then the Jets go to the Ralph Wilson regular season finale, which could be the final game in that stadium period if the Patriots um, can save off the Bills. So now it went from clinching the division to, the Patriots are 11-3, the Bills are 10-4, and you have to look at each game, and hopefully the Patriots can get some space back and clinch the division at some point here. But incredibly frustrating and definitely disappointing.
And I think when, like you said, your last loss for the Patriots, thinking about it being the end of fall, start of or end of summer, start of fall, and then your next loss, it's snowing, Christmas decorations and now snow on the ground across New England. You can't complain too much. The one thing though is the mindset of going on the 10-game win streak, and it wasn't just you kind of had two different scenarios where you did just get beat during the Bills' comeback. They ran all over the Patriots. Josh Allen took full control. The Patriots' offense sputtered. Drake May was inaccurate. Drives couldn't get anything going. The one touchdown, Travion Henderson was a toss play that he was in the backfield and made everything out of nothing with the long touchdown run. So you kind of had two scenarios where not only did you blow a lead, you also just got beat. If they almost played like they did in the second half the whole game, then you could say it's a complete reset for the Patriots, and they were bound to have a dud where they lay an egg. This one, you're up 21-0. You could be thinking, all right, the Patriots are back to being a Super Bowl contender. If they're about to sweep the Bills, they already beat Buffalo once this year, about to clinch the division with 3 weeks to go, it would be like completely like old times. Now you have to take a step back and think, okay, depending on the division, depending on how many home games you get, what seed you are, there's still a chance to think about it as if they can go 13-4 after back-to-back 4-13, you would have taken that every single day. But are they a legitimate Super Bowl contender? So if they do lose to Baltimore and then win their last two games, you know, you will feel good going into the playoffs. But at 11-3 right now, are you thinking of the Patriots as a Super Bowl contender still because they have beaten the Bills once, almost beat them a second time, and are 11-3 leading the division? Or after seeing them in a pressure-packed situation, like you said, a hat T-shirt game, Mike Vrabel even called it a basically championship type game, and then you falter like that at home blowing a lead, are you saying to yourself, now they're not Super Bowl contenders, let's just enjoy the good season and be pleasantly surprised if they can actually close out multiple playoff games on a run to the Super Bowl?
I think you have to start with the division first. Obviously, the fact they didn't clinch at home with such a lead with 3 games left does scare you a bit for how they're going to handle other opportunities to possibly clinch. I think we said to each other again during that 10-game win streak, whether it was before the season or at the end of September, if you could take a drive to win it at home in week 15 or whatever it was last week to win the division against Buffalo, despite the fact they blew the lead and so on, you would take that chance and take that opportunity a million times out of a million. So I think there has to be a bit of separation here in terms of looking at the division by itself. They haven't clinched it yet. You have to start there. I think if they can't clinch the division, at some point the Super Bowl dreams will definitely fade a bit. But I think 11-3 is still 11-3 in an AFC that is without now Kansas City. You have the Chargers at 10-4, unproven in the playoffs, certainly unproven in the playoffs. The Broncos at 12-2 with their defense playing Super Bowl like, but again, unproven young QB. Their coach has done it before. And then the Colts with Phillip Rivers and Jones out for the rest of the year. They're faltering at 8-6. So you look at that division. You have the Jaguars 10-4, the Texans 9-5. Good defense for Houston. Quarterbacks playing back and playing better. Lawrence in Jacksonville had 6 total touchdowns. So all of that is your competition aside from Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, right? So I mentioned the Steelers with a Super Bowl winning quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, a few minutes ago. You have the Ravens battling for their playoff life with Lamar Jackson, and then you have the Bills sitting there. I think the Bills can be very confident winning on the road, maybe less pressure than they've had at home in the playoffs where they haven't been able to come through. But if you're the Patriots, there's still no juggernaut that you haven't proven you could play with or beat. You beat the Bills. The Steelers was a close game that you wanted to win. But aside from that, you have to look at it as the rest are unproven non-Super Bowl champions, save for Denver's coach, the Steelers quarterback, the Ravens coach. And yeah, I mean that's it, right? So like, unless I'm missing a team that is in the hunt, so I think you have to win the division first, and then you worry about the playoffs and how they'll shake out with matchups. And you have to win home games. You can't have 3 home losses. It's great to be undefeated on the road, but if you're fighting for the 1 seed, which looks to be probably not happening anymore, so no bye. But if you win the division and you have a home playoff game, you can't play like you did Sunday. It's great to be undefeated on the road, but you want home playoff games. You want to be able to seal them when it counts most. So we'll see how it goes. But I think it definitely pokes a hole in the 10-game win streak balloon that we had been riding and enjoying. And then it's a little bit back to a dose of reality that was bound to happen. And hopefully, as they say, it's better that this happened now than later. Maybe it's a wake up call or a reality check, whatever cliche you want to use. But if the team can figure it out, I think the play calling on offense needs to be better. I know we like to dump on Josh McDaniels, but as you said, the one play that worked was really a busted up run that Henderson made a play out of nothing with May helping to lead the charge down the field. So blocking. So McDaniels has to figure out how to be better, especially you get conservative against the Jets. That's different. When you get conservative against Josh Allen or nothing's working, you're going to lose the game like they did Sunday.
Yeah, and I think with the one seed, I mean, Denver beating Green Bay as the Patriots blew a lead at home to Buffalo is kind of, interesting, like dichotomy of the two teams when you think about, okay, who could be a legitimate contender. And like you said, McDaniels who's had a good year, didn't have a good game. Drake May did not have an MVP moment, winning drive. It was one of his lowest completion percentage games that he's had this year. And even McDaniel's play calling, going away from the run in the second half, May kind of looking downfield at times with inaccurate passes was tough. The other thing, too, I think, is again, like the defense kind of, you got to give it credit to Allen, but the run defense, they're missing missing Milton Williams, and we talked about this in previous podcasts. Just it's tough because if you don't have everyone, this Patriots team, um, they're not going to play above their preseason punching weight. Adam Shine, who's maybe one of the most annoying sports personalities there is. He has an annoying voice, and that's saying something coming from us, called the Patriots possibly fraudulent. I think that's too far, but this is why we're kind of thinking about where to go from here week to week with them. But I do want to mention Duck Kind of Rock Sports is getting a phone call from a caller. Um, so let's see if we could get our caller on the line. This is someone who's called us before. All right, Duck Hunter Rock Sports is lucky to have Mike from West Roxbury calling in. Mike, what do you want to talk about on the program this evening? We were just talking Patriots Bills. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would touch briefly on the Patriots Bills game. Seeing that it was for a possible division title for the first time in a long time, and it's hard to really critique a lot about the Patriots season as a whole. Nobody likes to lose. I mean, blow a 3 touchdown lead to a division foe with everything on the line. But with that being said, I know you and Matt, both of you, don't want to go into the playoffs on a 13-game winning streak. So could they possibly have gotten this one out of the way?
That's a good
Maybe.
point. That's true.
But it's difficult to say, but I have a hard time critiquing the way that they played, especially with the big plays in the running game. You know, a little leaky on defense, let absolutely gashed by the tight ends, and not being able to get any receivers involved for the most part. But it's clearly a team that you could see again. So you don't want to empty the toolbox.
Yeah, and Mike, I think when you called in a few weeks ago, you did mention a little bit about the Patriots defense, a little worries, especially with some of the injuries, and we saw that unfortunately rear its ugly head. And I think I agree. You're right. We had talked about how the Patriots with the loss to the Raiders, who one of our avid listeners is a big Raiders fan. Shout out to him.
Sorry
You know,
to
that
hear
was
that.
their crowning moment this year. And the Steelers loss, right? Like we talked about how they could have been undefeated, and that made me nervous. So you're right. If they had a long streak going in, then we would have been worried about this happening in the first round. And it's hard to beat a good team 3 times. So maybe if you see Buffalo
Yeah,
again, now you could win the rubber.
right, exactly. And that's always, going into those type of divisional games, and whether it's a new coaching staff, old coaches, there's just so much familiarity between the teams that you're not going to get a lot of looks that you haven't seen before. So I guess it's I guess we could call it the sparring match before the heavyweight title fight down the road. If because I don't think there's any other team that's probably Buffalo is probably the most experienced team. I'm not ready to put Denver record wise or anything up with a team as experienced as Buffalo is. So
And
I
I
think that's
think,
what you think.
and Mike, going off one of your previous points too, I think the loss out of the way is kind of the big sort of conundrum when viewing a game like this. You want to win it, obviously, and then when you don't come through, you kind of have to look at the response and a glass half full approach. But it would be interesting. I'm not sure if Vrabel has talked about it specifically, so maybe Stacey James, if he's still there, could get you a press pass, a press conference, because Vrabel has been part of both. You had Vrabel, 03 season. They lose the 2 games early on, except at the Bills 31-0.
Right.
Where our Patriots former champions Drew Bledsoe, Lawyer Malloy were on the opposing sideline, and then they lose at Washington that September 28th, and then they don't lose the rest of the season. Cap it off with the 31-0 revenge shutout against those same Bills week 17, and then they go on to win the Super Bowl, and then they carry it over that next season until Halloween evening in Pittsburgh and lose to the Steelers at Heinz Field, then drop that tough heartbreaker to the orange-clad Dolphins on Sunday or Monday night in December, and then still win the Super Bowl. So both those teams had the long win streaks that obviously spanned 2 seasons, and then Vrabel, of course, was part of, along with the Game 7 loss in 2010, the Celtics at Lakers, obviously that, and the tough night there in the desert, losing the undefeated season in '08 to the Giants in the Super Bowl. Vrabel was a member of that team. So obviously it'd be interesting to hear what kind of worked. If you look at different rosters, same coach, same QB and stuff, but with this Patriot team, everything is new to them. So I think you are right where it's probably better to get this off now, and then even instead of a third rematch with Buffalo being up 2-0, they're 1-1 and kind of know what they have to do and what they have to fix and learn from. So we'll see.
Did
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, what I heard, I'm not sure where I heard it, but I did hear all the week before the Buffalo game was that Vrabel was big on championship game or division championship game, just putting that moniker on the game itself. Now, granted, the outcome is what it is, and probably to lose it the way they lost it with having the big lead, it just compounds how it looked. But all things considered, that's probably one of the better. You took every punch, you hung around late. Granted, you didn't score when you needed to, but it made for lackluster second half when you defensively, but it definitely made for a great game. And I think that they shouldn't hang the heads of the game, and I don't think Vrabel will let them hang the heads, to be honest with you.
And I like how that was approached because it's not a 7-game series. It's not a best of 5 either. So in the playoffs, single games, I like how he approached it as a singular game and sort of looked at the team taking it as that way. And again, it didn't work out, but that's kind of the mindset to have. So I agree with that. One thing I think we didn't point out with the Patriots 11-3, Bills 10-4, they're 1-1 head to head. So for the division, the tiebreaker is their AFC East division record. So your divisional record is what will be the next step should they end up with the same record. And the Patriots are 3-1 with 2 divisional games left, as I said before. And then the Bills are 3-2 with 1 division game left. So
Matt, what was that last divisional game you mentioned with the Bills? Their last game at Ralph?
The Jets. They're wearing the red helmets. I think that's going to be tough for that to be a loss, but even that would be 4-2. So if the Patriots can, win, even if they lose to Baltimore, the Jets and Dolphins are the 2 big teams that they definitely need to take care of and make sure they don't slip up those games.
And both those teams are reeling, obviously. A couple more points about Vrabel, like we talked about a couple of times already. The classic hat and T-shirt game. It is, he did build it up. He did say after that penalties weren't the reason they lost. The officials aren't the reason they lost. And then also kind of spoke out of both sides of his mouth, kind of alluding to the pass interference call that was also called a Buffalo catch that could have been a Patriots interception. And he did mention that Buffalo, was up there leading the league in holds and didn't get called for one. So, I mean, I don't mind that a little bit, kind of talking about it in the sense of, maybe putting a little fuel to the fire as far as, if they meet a third time in the playoffs, you better get some holding calls, going against Buffalo. But again, like with Vrabel in this position, we would have taken this any time of, the summer or fall. Similar with Drake May, after surpassing some of Brady's completion numbers, just doing this in his second year, him not being able to have that MVP moment instead of a Heisman moment drive, this wasn't the be all end all. Hopefully he'll learn from not being able to be the guy to drive them down the field to win a huge, huge game. It would have been, really their biggest win technically in 6 years. So those are the things that, again, there's still time to do those things. There's still time for the Patriots defense to get a key stop, the offense to put together a full, fourth quarter comeback or multiple fourth quarter drives to win the game.
Yeah, well, here's a shock. The guy that cheers for the Celtics doesn't mind blaming the refs for, just plant the seed, Mike. That's all. Plant the seed. So that way down the line, you better get the hold on the outside. When the guy breaks like a 60-yarder, and then there comes the flag coming. Bring it back. So yeah, no, I think that's genius by Vrabel. You almost have to play it that way, and because it yeah, it's a difficult thing being such a young team and being so new to this team. But I think they instantly, he's got these guys bought in. They're in love with, it's still a honeymoon phase at this point. So he can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned. As the team's got to be looking at him like, hey, we'll run through a wall for this guy.
Yeah, agreed. And planting the seed is definitely a basketball coach move. We were also lucky to have our last guest, Andrew Callahan of the Boston Herald, who I know Mike, you're a fan of and a listener and a reader maybe up there. And he did kind of mention how Vrabel's taken some good from Belichick and even some good from Gerard Mayo as far as relatability to the players. That's the Mayo piece. And then obviously some of these nice chess moves from, Belichick. So hopefully it serves him and the team well in the next month if, they can keep going even past a month from now. Any last Patriots thoughts from either Matt or Mike before we might get into some other topics with our caller that we're lucky to have on the program?
Yes, I just have one more take, and it seems that Mike is 100 times more likable than Bill when it comes down to it. So it's not like we're going into these big, tight playoff games and you're looking across and you see, oh man, there's that line judge. Oh, he can't stand Bill. Remember when Bill berated him and up and down over the placement of the punt? Yeah, so it helps to be, Vrabel in this situation.
I definitely think, despite Bill Belichick's current dating life, I definitely think Vrabel's a lot more charming, it seems. So I think that I agree with you, Mike, where it will. I think he knows how to phrase things, even with the press, seemingly every week, but a couple post games or midweek pressers where like you have the short sound bite of him kind of being a little surly there. But other than that, it's usually between the press, between the on camera interviews, which has only been 2 years of having a Patriots head coach, in the last quarter century on camera for interviews during the game, either before or after the half. But he carries himself well there, and yeah, I think with the refs, don't always love how the optics of it, because you do have the other fans of the opposing team clamoring, like blaming the refs for the loss. But as you said, Mike, and we could attribute it to Mike from Roxbury, plant the seed is what the strategy is, and let's see if that seed grows and if it's harvested at some point in the playoffs.
It sure worked and when D Ford lined up offsides, I'll tell you that.
Well, that still to me is it's comical how Chiefs fans can. Yeah, I mean, Chiefs fans can complain about a lot. I complain about a lot with them. They like to find the nuggets of calls that are missed that should go against them, but it's funny to me where they use that as some sort of gotcha moment where, and nothing against C Ford. That's the thing. It's like they hate him for lining off sides, but they also hate the refs for throwing the flag, similar to when Mahomes and Kelsey wanted that cool lateral or whatever to count. When a player lines up off sides, it's a free play, no matter what happens. If you took a shot deep and Brady threw a pick, it's a pre-snap or at the snap penalty. He was lined up off sides. It was not a judgment call, like the J.C. Jackson getting picked out of the play later in the game. So it's weird what Kansas City, Missouri / Kansas, who knows where they'll build their new stadium, but it's weird kind of what they look at down there, and think think one can be compared to another. Maybe they have too much delicious barbecue sauce in their eyes, because they do have incredible barbecue sauce down there. But it's weird that that's mentioned in Chiefs Kingdom as some egregious call where it's the guy lined up off sides. It's no judgment at all. It was objective, not some subject.
How great is it that we, not just as Patriots fans looking for different matchups, but even just as football and NFL fans, how great is it that we don't have to worry about watching the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, let alone the playoffs, at least getting a year respite from that and thinking about, obviously we're all hypocrites. Every human being is. Some of us more than others. Some people may think we are more than others, and that's fine. But when you think about it, the Chiefs, similar stretch to the Patriots, where if you're not a Chiefs fan, you're tired of, the same thing. The Eagles Chiefs last year, I wasn't even, that into watching that rematch from 2 years prior, right? And not just because my nachos got a little burnt before the game. Like, if you think about watching these playoffs, regardless of if the Patriots don't get as far as we hope, just the fact that they are, in them, and that we can see some different AFC teams is going to be welcomed to at least me.
It's truly unbelievable when you think of how far they have come. And granted, they haven't done anything yet, but it's a long way away from the Gerard Mayo, the Cam Newtons. It's amazing what some stability and leadership can bring to a franchise.
Are you guys ready to talk about another team and talk about how far they've come?
Sure.
All right. So the last time we had Mike from West Roxbury on, the Celtics were, I believe, 7-7, just meandering in mediocrity. And then after that podcast episode, the Celtics started to look like the Celtics of the last few years, winning 8 of 10, including a 5-game winning streak. They've cooled off the last 2 games, unfortunately. But during this time, they rose to they're now the 4 seed, only a half game back of the Toronto Raptors, who are hanging tough, and then still behind first place Detroit Pistons and the 2nd seed NBA Cup champion New York Knicks. But the Celtics got up to the 3 seed. Jaylen Brown continued his tear from mid range, going to the basket, scoring, over 30 points, not averaging that, but dropping a lot of 30-point games. And even we saw Derek White right himself, more contributions, even, from guys like Kata, and even the development of Jordan Walsh before our eyes. So, credit to Joe Mazzulla and the coaching staff for that. Now the Celtics, I don't think we're going to talk about tanking much more, but Mike and then Matt, we'll start with Mike. What were your thoughts for the Green the last couple of weeks?
They are. It's truly maddening to I usually have the luxury of sitting in another room listening to my dad yell at the TV. So that's probably, how I take in the game with a little bit of a sideline report. And the best was him trying to find it on Apple TV or Amazon or what. Oh, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
Hands down, that had to be one of the greatest Felger-esque technological rants of all time. But either way, they're in a tough spot, man. Like I said before on the last time around, they should be a playoff team. They should
Well,
be
you
a home
called it,
playoff.
Mike. You said that they should be at least a top 4 seed, and as of recording, they're in 4th place in the East.
Yeah, it doesn't feel stable in the least, but neither does the whole entire National Basketball Association. So wide open.
And Mike, I'm with you partially, definitely with your dad on the technological piece, because it's been frustrating at times, but that's more Comcast / Xfinity. I think Amazon, despite their football feed, still choppy to me. Basketball's done pretty decently, and then Peacock, luckily, seems to be NBC Sports on expanded cable with the sports package, so you're able to actually switch channels like commercial and stuff, and So, but I think that the tough thing, like you said, it's a little bit of both. Where yeah, they're fourth in the East, and I think they were third before the loss to Detroit. But and they're 6 games back of the Pistons with the Knicks and Raptors in between them. But there's a 1 game difference between them and Miami at 9. So the Magic, 76ers, Cavaliers, Hawks, and Heat are all right there. Whereas you said the sustainability piece is going to come into play one way or another. That's easy to say. Obviously, it's kind of what a long sports season needs. But if they can't sustain good basketball and win streaks that aren't followed by losing streaks, it will be tough. The issue, too, even though I love Jordan Walsh's hustle and play, he plays so hard. If you were to tell me he was playing 21 minutes a game and started 14 of them this year, I definitely think the tank had been on. But he is a great guy to have starting to grow this year, where he hopefully develops into a role in a title contender next season. But aside from that, there is still, like you said, the inconsistencies where that you have the game in Milwaukee, great first half, then you go so cold in the second. You finish the game shooting 29% from three, which isn't allowed by the book of analytics for a successful game. Hauser was 0 for 9. Pritchard, who I go back and forth on, loving and hating, as we've talked about on here, was 3 of 11. And then one of my favorite players, Derek White, 2 for 9. And then Anthony Simons, 1 of 6. Like that. And then they were 26% from the 3 for the Pistons. And those numbers reflect kind of what happened in games 1 and 2 against the Knicks last year. Even though the leads weren't that high ever, it was the 3-point shooting, the hell bent strategy. It's going to result in stretches like this where if they're hot, they'll string together a few games. If they're not, they'll drop a couple because they don't have the star power healthy this season or the depth seemingly in general. So I would think Jordan Walsh is the brightest spot, but I definitely agree with um, the sustainability piece you mentioned being what will become of the Celtics. It'll depend on if they can sustain this, as well as the teams within a game behind them, some of which could be considered underachieving, maybe a couple overachieving considering. And then you have the Bucks and Bulls after that, which that seems to be the cutoff line is the Heat. But that's the thing. It's a big fall. It's a big gap between fourth and ninth, and we'll see what Toronto and the Pistons do. And then the Knicks obviously think they should be right up there for the top. But we'll see what happens. And we won't get to watch some Christmas, but we'll see what happens with Tatum and what position they're in and what position he's in.
Well, Matt, you said star power, and some standings points. Like the West, besides OKC with still only 2 losses, and barreling towards being by far the biggest repeat favorite, since Golden State did it. The West is similar with seeds 2 through 6. Just a few games you could be, either the 2nd seed or the 6th seed, and then the I credit Missoula, but like crediting Jaylen Brown, and we've said it before, but a lot of podcasts repeat themselves weekly, and we do it on more a sporadic basis. But when you think about Jaylen Brown as leader of the Celtics this year with Tatum out, it's been a joy to watch. With again, when you have that stretch, scoring 42 against the Knicks, even scoring 30 against the Lakers. I know the Lakers had, their two best players, arguably. Austin Reeves is good too, out. But winning those 2 games at home against good crowds, on national TV/streaming against 2 rivals that, by all projections, are supposed to be better than you this year. Those are fun wins, in the span of a 4-day, 4-day window there. Crushing the Wizards. Brown sat out obviously, but still at Toronto, scoring 30, and even in the two kind of disappointing losses, 10 the streak, similar to Patriots ending their streak. Brown still went over 30 at Milwaukee, and then 34 the other night against Detroit. And then, also had a 41-point game at Minnesota against the Timberwolves. The 33-point game against the Pistons on Thanksgiving Eve. And some of these games, his field goals did get up there into the 30s, but he has been pretty efficient some of these games as well. 10 of 17 against the Bucks when the rest of the team wasn't that efficient. And even a game he shot poorly against Cleveland, 3 of 13. He had a triple double with 19, 12, and 11. So you think about Jaylen Brown, and you're kind of just, if you had said, okay, Tatum's out, we had talked on this podcast, we've had a million conversations off this of like, all right, by X amount of games in, maybe Brown will just say, all right, we're bad this year, we're going to tank. He's done the exact opposite, which is who he is as a person and player, as a competitor, as a leader, as an all-star, and as a champion. And again, the Celtics are so lucky to have Tatum and Brown as their two front men that, I know we want a second championship, obviously, and they need to do that. But it's just these are kind of the times, even with some of these recent losses, that streak just felt great to kind of that stretch, I should say, felt great to kind of watch, where even though you're not thinking of a championship this year, they can make some noise. And again, we'll say it all year, depending on if Tatum comes back or not. We know some fans of other teams that would not want to play the Celtics if Tatum came back in the playoffs in a less pressure on the Celtics situation. So just wanted to say that.
Yeah, we love Brown, and he is always efficient. He's the leader. He's the Finals MVP. The tough thing that the Pistons lost was missing 7 free throws, and it still looks a lot of it mental. He's, in his legs, in his release, shorting it at times, or just looking like me in the student staff basketball game, just not having confidence, rising up to shoot a free throw. But again, we already know that with Brown, where the free throws are not gimmies by any means, despite him. I think he's shooting over 70% still from the free throw line. So, but yeah, it's good to see him. I mean, even he takes ownership always, and he's doing that as the sole team leader, so to speak, in the post-game press conferences, saying he needs to play better and do better. So he's setting an example. And that's the thing, the end of the Pistons game, even again, my guy Pritchard, who will jack up threes and drive, headstrong to get his in garbage time when you have guys up from Maine or guys making their Celtics or NBA debuts. He won't give them the ball, but it was disappointing to see him airball a straight on 3 against Detroit, down 5, I believe, in the final.
Yeah, that was tough, because it's like, this is a situation. Oh,
yeah.
you get the turn now, and it's not even close.
Yeah, no, but in March, in past years, when they'd be playing Washington at home, and you have a guy from Maine up, they don't get the ball to shoot it, he would have to get his. So that's the other issue, like you said, it's his moment. Again, he looked again like me in this staff teacher student game, airballing a straight on 3, which I guess makes me similar to an NBA player, because that's quite an impressive feat to do. So that's the tough thing. We're similar to the Patriots, the Celtics maybe not overachieved, or like they're playing well enough where we're enjoying the ride, happy with it. But overall, the last couple of games leaves a sour taste in your mouth.
Mike, any last thoughts on the C's?
I'm just gonna just real quick for Brown. He's clearly the lone bright spot as far as I'm concerned on the team, but he is, he's just been, well, to use some other typical phrase, he's just been the typical NBA superstar, and it's almost kind of strange because I never really looked at the Celtics as having a superstar play. Pierce was sort of the average guy. Clearly, Tatum is um, next level as far as stuff, but to see Brown take this role, giant step forward without Tatum is honestly refreshing in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, it's great. And yeah, we'll see again. We're still as far as guests, we're happy to have Mike on. And we had, like I said, we just had Drew Callahan on. We're trying to get even some more Celtics guests or Celtics themed guests as they progress through this season. That's kind of a in betweener, but it's been fun to watch. And another team that Mike, you were having fun
Wait,
watching when yeah
can I just ask Mike one thing? Because
yeah.
before we move totally on from the NBA as a whole, which is what I'm guessing you're doing, Call.
Yeah, that's the transition that I was planning. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, I just wanted to get Mike's opinion on this because um, it's been a mixed bag of opinions from Knicks fans, um, who we know and love despite hating their team. So the Knicks, which was framed as their first NBA title of any kind or first championship in basketball of any kind since 1973, did win the NBA Cup, which I watched a total of maybe 20 seconds of. And a dear listener, subscriber, and friend and former roommate from UConn, Emilio, did make a great joke this morning where he said, I feel like Cal Naughton Jr. In Talladega Nights after he wins the Talladega 500. I know it's a technicality, but if you try and take this away from me, I'll sock you straight in the face. Where there's some Knicks fans who, despite the fact that Emilio, I don't believe, was up late celebrating the championship of the NBA Cup last night, there are some Knicks fans. I know one caller from a Saturday morning on WFAN called in to one of the morning shows and said how much he wanted it. He had moved to this country after the Knicks had won anything of merit and hadn't seen. I believe he came in the '90s because he said he hadn't seen the Mets win a World Series, hadn't seen the Knicks win an NBA Finals, or the Jets win a Super Bowl. So he wanted something. And him being an international guy did compare it to soccer. Getting a midseason trophy is a big deal. Winning a cup or a domestic cup or whatever, I'm not well versed in soccer, is a big deal. And the host, I forget who it was not in agreement with him. But I thought of that guy last night because I hope he was up late celebrating if he's waited uh, decades for anything like this. Um, so again, I'm not happy for the Knicks. It's not the big one in June by any means. That I would not uh, want the Knicks to win unless they're playing the Lakers. But I felt happy for him. And then the other side, a few Knicks fans could care less and think it's fluff and a pretend anything in its third season. So obviously, if you're a Knicks fan and they haven't made the big one or won the NBA Finals since 1973, so you might be disenchanted with them celebrating a championship of this nature. So basically, your thoughts on the NBA Cup as a whole, Mike, or if you were in the Knicks fan shoes, what you would be feeling, and then then we could talk about maybe the Celtics quickly in terms of our outlook should they ever win the NBA Cup someday on the brightly colored floor in Las Vegas or
Right. It's hard for me, without knowing the true opinions of such legendary Knicks fans as Michael Rappaport, Of course, Spike Lee. Of course, Timothy Chalamet. Does he count? Maybe Jerry
Yeah,
Seinfeld, I believe.
maybe Larry
Without
David.
having, yeah, maybe Larry did, maybe even Nims, the mayor of Coney Island, maybe Nims, maybe. I don't think anybody is particularly a fan of the NBA Cup, short of. I don't even think the companies that advertise on the NBA Cup are fans of it. The only people that are fans of it, like you said, are probably the guys that get to paint all that stuff all over the floor. Um, maybe those guys have the most fun, but other than that, I can't think of a more useless in-season tournament.
And that's the thing. I'm with you on all that. Mike, I will say now that the Lakers and Knicks have both won one, I do want the Celtics. I do want the Knicks to. The one thing I agreed with the Knicks was that not to put a banner up because they want to focus on the NBA Finals. But Mike Brown had said that they'd put a banner up if they were to win it, and then they went back on that today. But maybe the league will twist their arm a bit because I did want the Celtics to win just because now that the Lakers and Knicks have one, I want the Celtics to have what they have, but also I wanted the Celtics to be the first team since the Lakers and the Bucks put one up to be like, no, we're not going to acknowledge it. So now if the Knicks stick to their guns with that, they won't be able to be they'll be following suit, not leading from the front. But I do think it's kind of weird because even like the Hornets won the Summer League championship, which they have now. And if you're like a Hornet fan who hasn't sniffed any success, would this would this make you excited or, as I said earlier, make you more disenchanted by, hey, they could win this silly thing but can't actually compete? And I think with the Knicks, despite the fact that they've been so close to making the finals recently after years of toiling, it's got to be tough where you're like, I want the real thing. Just like if you were to be the Hornets or had the Magic gone on the run or the Pacers had won it a couple years ago. Even this Spurs team, because I think Wemby was like crying in the post game press conference, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe you want
Well, if
this.
he's European and
Yeah,
It
it's
means
like
get
a
this.
lot. It means a lot to it means a lot to French guys, definitely.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, the other
Like
thing
that.
too, I think the other thing too, if you talking about the Celtics banner, the other thing the Knicks have put up conference champion banners,
Are
Atlantic
they
Division.
still up?
Yeah, I think Atlantic Division champion banners are still up.
That
So
they
if
have
you're
Billy Joel still up, but yeah,
yeah,
I don't
if
know.
you're gonna do that, then put this up. Like the Bucks put it up. The Lakers putting it up just didn't make sense, but they want to legitimize the NBA Cup, and they're gonna eventually name the trophy after LeBron because that's how you knew the Lakers were gonna win the first one. So LeBron will get a trophy named after him. But the Celtics only putting up NBA World Championship banners, it just wouldn't make sense for the Celtics if they ever win the NBA Cup to put it up. The Knicks, I think it's more like you said, Matt, about like them as far as this season focusing on a bigger banner, which they of course could win, even though we don't want them to, as you said, except if it's against the Lakers. But as far as the overall franchise, it doesn't really make sense if you're going to have other banners in Madison Square Garden for the Knicks winning less than just the whole championship.
Yeah,
Not
you might as well put it up, but also maybe if they don't win it in June, or maybe if they do win it in June, they put both up and or just the cup quietly. I mean, the Patriots put up an 18 and or a 16 and 0 undefeated regular season banner very quietly up, and they just have Super Bowl banners. But that's it is weird. Like the one thing I will say is, because the Lakers only have NBA championship banners, but they retroactively claimed Minneapolis as after they ignored it. So who knows what they're doing up in the rafters? But I do think there could be a sense where if this NBA Cup is here to stay 20 years from now, it is viewed a little differently, right? Like you might want to be a franchise with one of them. You might want, I know MLS has a US Open Cup, um, which I'm not sure how that's viewed, but you want to win these things. And I think like you said, Mike, the colored courts need to go. I think they're silly, stupid. The fact that the Celtics couldn't put parquet, especially that first year. Now they have this weird painted green parquet thing that looks awful. I mean, I know a neighbor who went to their first Celtic game or first NBA game, and that was a court. So that's the only NBA court they've ever
Oh,
seen. So it
sorry to
doesn't
hear that.
even count. But I think why not just have the cup in the middle? People will still know it's an NBA Cup game. And then you have the City Edition courts, which, as cool as Toronto's throwback one was, and Minnesota, the Timberwolves throwback one was, some of these City Editions that they have now with weird colors matching the City Edition uniforms that don't fit the team, like the one the Wizards have. I had to look up whether that was an NBA Cup game because you don't know, because now everything's, down is up, blue is green. You don't know. But I think that things have to change with the cup, get rid of the silly courts. If they actually want to make it a thing, I read one thing today, make it consecutive where they block out, a week and a half to 2 weeks. People aren't going to travel to Vegas 2 weeks till Christmas when they don't know their team's in it until a couple days or a few days before. And if you block it out like around Thanksgiving and just do it in a straight shot, everyone will know that's the cup season. To have be playing Orlando twice and whoever twice, and then one's a cup game, one's not a cup game. I think that was the Celtics case. I forget if it was Orlando this year or who it was this year, but you play them back to back. One's a cup game, one's not. Just like enough with that. Like make the schedule, make it an event that people actually want to follow and watch, not have to be told what it is and look up these group standings. But again, hopefully the Celtics win it someday, just so Knicks fans and Laker fans don't have weird retroactive bragging rights in hindsight. But Cole, why don't you get to what you were looking to ask before, unless Mike has any final thoughts?
Oh, you pretty much summed it up perfectly, man.
Yeah, well, Matt unfortunately ruined my flowery transition. But Mike, before we get on to, I know you got a couple more quick takes, and I know you gotta jet out of here. Did you have any Bruins thoughts after you waxed poetic about the bees? The last time you were on with us, they still have what, like 40, 41 points. They're still, I mean, not that the divisions matter in the NHL, but they're still second to Detroit and what, the top 6 or 7 in the conference. Any Bruins thoughts? And then I'll get to a little bit of a sport we haven't covered on Duck on a Rock.
Right. The Bruins have had, when I said they hadn't had many stinkers in there, but they clearly wanted to prove me wrong and throw a few, 7 to, I did mention a few 7 to, but they have been soundly beaten in the last few weeks since the last time we spoke, but they still have some way about not turning a streak of losses in, which it says a ton about Sturm as a coach, and similar to Vrabel, I think he 100% has the Bruins bought in. And talk about another team decimated by injuries, but they they're gonna always rely heavily on goaltending, and it's good to see some goal scoring come from someone other than David Pastrnak as well, because that poor guy was having to saddle the whole entire offensive load on his shoulders. But
All right, and Mike, I lied. One more flowery transition. So even though it's been cold in New England, up there in Massachusetts for you, down here in Connecticut for us, the hot stove for the Red Sox has not been hot. So is there anything that you've thought about? I know Fenway Sports Group. I don't know if they're, speaking of European soccer, I don't know if they're focused on that. Bregman is still out in the wind there. Is there anything, after the baseball winter meetings that you said, oh, I wish this happened, or something that you want to happen now for the Red Sox.
Yeah, well, clearly the front office and ownership of the Red Sox have made a strong. They made their position known over the last few off seasons. Let's just say we are gonna flood the media with as many rumors, signings, and interest in every single free agent. That way, when they finally do put pen to paper elsewhere, there could always be a link back to, oh, they sat down, the Red Sox talked, they talked to Eugenio Suarez, they talked to Pete Alonso, they were in on the screw ball trade. They were in, it's just,
Well, last
it,
year Juan Soto.
Monsoon, yeah, the PR
And even
spin.
Otani maybe because he's a New Balance athlete.
Oh my goodness.
Like Otani's gonna be going to Brighton
Yeah,
Boston Landing to announce that he signed the mega
I
deal with the
mean,
Red Sox.
yeah, his translator would fit perfectly in Massachusetts, but other than that, I can't think of a worse place for a guy like Otani. But geez, he would yeah, it's difficult to see the Red Sox off season. They'll probably end up being held captive by Scott Boras again and have to give Bregman or any other one of his clients more money than humanly possible to suit up and hit 260 with 18 bombs and 65 RBIs. So
And then they'll go
hey,
into the season where if they make the wild card round again, play the Yankees or Blue Jays or whoever, then it would be kind of, well, hey, at least we made the postseason, and wait till the young guys develop even further. So
right, and they can't get that home gate like they need that home
yeah,
playoff game.
yeah,
That's all they need.
yeah. All right, Matt, do you have any thoughts before we're gonna let Mike end the show with a quick take? Is everyone ready to
I just have
kind of
one
close?
question because I recorded the game and the Nesson tribute after, and I have to watch it. And I know you're more of a BC guy, but had you ever gone to Matthews Arena? Um, and like because we did
Oh,
once when we lived up there, but any thoughts on Matthews Arena um, closing, being demolished for a new modern building for Northeast hockey there? Obviously, Matthews Arena, original home of the Celtics. I think it was just Boston Arena then, if I'm not mistaken. But that was the original home of the Boston Celtics. Uh,
you know, Matt,
yeah, just any thoughts.
it is funny that you bring up Matthews Arena because I had no idea that we were going in this direction, but I had graced the hallways of Matthews Arena, but it was for my younger brother's high school graduation.
Oh wow, so
Um,
not a
you know,
Northeastern hockey game.
not a no, not a real, whatever they are in. What are they? America East or whatever they're in.
Hockey Northeastern Hockey East, and they closed it down with a loss to B.
Yeah, no, I was lucky enough to see the graduating class of Latin Academy that year. So, that was about all I got out of Matthews Arena.
Mike, another
Lifetime
Goodwill
fan.
Hunting
Yeah.
reference. You probably have one every single every single time you're on, but you sounded like you were about to talk to us like we were Professor Lembeau, and that you were going to introduce Professor Hayes.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And it is a bygone now arena, obviously, in a bygone type of venue. But I thought it was so cool at the balcony. I never got to see the old Boston Garden balcony, our dad's favorite spot on earth. But I do. I am glad we saw a Northeastern hockey game there. I'm sure basketball wasn't as pleasant of a viewing environment, but that's where they had. And correct me if I'm wrong, Cole, but isn't that where our father and our dad's father, our grandfather would go for high school hockey? Isn't that where the 8 teams would play their 4 games every Saturday? at Matthews
Possibly,
Arena.
we'd have to do some fact checking. I
Yeah, the
know.
public.
Oh,
The public's
Norwood, yeah, yeah, possibly because Norwood. I know he said how they won the state championship at Boston Garden. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
we'll
yeah.
have to look into that and let the viewers know. 1960s, 1970s Massachusetts high school
I
hockey.
was gonna say you had to go.
That rivals, but maybe not always surpasses our beloved Hamden High School, Hamden, Connecticut high school hockey history.
Sorry,
Um,
Mike. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say we had to go back to 1950 to get something Matt wasn't 100% sure of factually.
and
Thank God.
our producer, uh, Matt, we met is not behind the glass tonight to fact check us or help us out. If we get things wrong, we apologize and we own it. One more thing about getting things wrong, the state of Boston College athletics, the BC basketball team is, I think, again, they're now meandering in mediocrity and non-conference play. They're 5-6, and we're going to try to get a UMass friend on the program soon. But the Eagles, they're not even the best team in this Commonwealth anymore. So maybe if Matthews Arena is going by way of the wrecking ball, what do you think should happen to Conti Forum, Mike?
Oh, that. Well, they could probably. Well, you know what I'm gonna say? They're gonna turn it into a dorm or something, and
Yeah, like last time.
$250,000 every month out of it, and they'll just put a bunch of microwaves and air mattresses in there. So,
All right.
but
Okay. So we did, just like last time, even though this wasn't fully planned, we touched on um, every aspect of Boston sports. And we appreciate Mike doing that, but we want to let Mike have the floor because he does have another non major sports take for us. So Mike, give it a
yes. So this Friday night, you will be privied to Netflix having Jake Paul versus two-time Olympic gold medalist, two-time unified heavyweight champion of the world, Anthony Joshua, taking place on Netflix in lieu of Gervonta Tank Davis not being able to make the Jake Paul fight. Jake did something probably not the smartest thing in the world. He said, I'm going to go from a 5'5", 130-pound guy and just call the biggest heavyweight monster I can imagine to end the ride of futility where Jake has gone through, to bring up basketball, he fought a former NBA player, three-time dunk champion. So Jake Paul's reign should hopefully come to an end on Friday. If it doesn't come to an end on Friday, then you can all just like your residential brethren over there at the WWE know that this was a work of epic proportions. The fact that it is a sanctioned boxing event, the fact that you could dial up DraftKings right now and pick Jake Paul to get knocked out between rounds 1 and 2, which seems like a foregone conclusion, but with me, there's always something that there's always something that leads you to believe that they almost want you to take that. They make it very appetizing. So I wouldn't be surprised if Jake Paul runs around the ring for 2 or 3 rounds and then gets iced by Anthony Joshua. But for a lot of stick that Jake does get, I do want to give him a ton of respect because a lot of things people don't know about Jake Paul is that he is an ambassador and he is a good-willed member of the women's boxing community. He's basically single-handedly revived women's boxing, which I know that's the most niche thing we're ever going to speak about on this podcast. But Jake deserves a lot of credit for that. He is also, if you watch Pat McAfee, is a stakeholder in Polymart. So by no means does he need to be getting in the ring with somebody like Anthony Joshua. And he clearly has spent some of that money into turning himself into, I won't say professional boxer, but I will say serviceable boxer. So my hat is off to Jake Paul. My hat is off to Netflix for saving the show. And either way, yes, I just wanted to, give Jake a lot of respect for getting in the ring because it sounds easy, but it's probably one of the hardest things to do in sports.
And Mike, we
So,
thank you for that take. And yeah, I mean, we're not big boxing guys as far as knowing the ins and outs, but maybe we'll have time to turn on Netflix Friday and watch it crash before the fight.
exactly.
All right,
Fantastic.
Matt, do you want to bring us home with the sign off?
Yeah, I love you having the floor, Mike. Yeah, and I would definitely love to talk boxing. I love it from a historical perspective. And I'm glad I wish I had your knowledge of current boxers. I know Terrence Crawford just retired. I did
Yeah,
watch his final fight. So that despite being not well versed in it, I did at least know who that was. But yeah, we could definitely even catch up on how Paul does, and even talk or perhaps different feelings on Pat McAfee as well. But I'm glad you kind
right.
of showcased Jake Paul there in terms of because I'm definitely a hater of his, the good that he's done. So as always, for all the listeners, thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for coming back. Mike from Roxbury, it's always a pleasure. I'm glad you called in, and I'm glad you gave your takes and thoughts on a wide range of sports.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and since the day one of meeting your brother and yourself, it's been nothing but sheer, just to be able to speak sports and somebody that might know as much useful sports information as me is has to be you, Matt. You are right up there with, you know, it's fantastic. So I want to thank you from the
Uh,
bottom of my heart. Thank you.
no, thank you, Mike. And yeah, when you have the time on, I know you have less time on your hands than I do, so I appreciate the compliment, but there's a reason for it, and I'm also based on your plans tonight. Maybe some movie reviews can be in your future as well. So I heard that's I know you're a busy guy with lots of responsibilities, so thank you for carving out the time for us to call in tonight.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a great holiday, and I'll talk to you soon.
Have a happy holidays and a Merry Christmas. Mike, our listeners, we'll see what the next week holds in terms of how many podcasts we'll do over the holidays. So maybe this could be Happy New Year as well. But thank you for sticking with us through 2025. And thank you, as always, for being part of our flock.